Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shawkatali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And joining us this morning is Mr. Lakshan Dias, the chairman of Transparency International and a human rights activist. Very good morning to you, Mr. Dias, and welcome to Newsline.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, actually, for accepting our invitation. Is it a busy time for you? Right to Information Bill, Office of the Missing Person?
Yeah. Generally, I mean, we have nothing is on practicing. Like it will take few more months, but discussions are going on what to change and how to face the things. These things are happening, so we are busy with educating people and visiting various areas, and then just talk about these new laws in the country. So.
And how do you view the Right to Information?
Well, it was one of the very good one, and not only it's very interesting because people think that it only applies for the state. No, it's not only for the state. It applies for everybody using public funds, including some private sector, definitely the NGO sector, and the state sector. So it's a very broad act. Only thing is that we have to make use of it, and if we let it go like that, I don't think it will give any benefit to the society. So, but I think the role of the civil society and the activists and everybody to make it a real happening live law of the country.
I see. And are you one of the things that I noticed in this Right to Information Act in the appointment of information officers was that there doesn't seem to be a clear-cut direction as to who should be the information officers. And I read somewhere that you could have around the country maybe upwards of 2,000 such people. To me, and in my skeptical mind, it seems that that's 2,000 jobs that the politicians can give away to their friends, relatives, associates, whoever. Isn't that a glaring anomaly? Isn't that something that we need to be aware of?
I thought there can be even 4,000 jobs, such jobs, and it will take time. I think it will take time till December when you really create the whole infrastructure. So I have no idea with how will they appoint people. There may be a thing that they will absorb certain people already in the service, state service, into new position, or they might change the designation and appoint a new person, as well as they will train people. So they will train somebody in the service as a new information officer. I don't think it's good, as well as it's wise on appointing totally new people into the setup. That is you should have the knowledge of the system. Like if you take the Pradesh Sabha, if you just appoint somebody from outside as a new information officer, what will happen? That person will take at least 1 year to learn the setup.
Yes, and then
so it will be a waste of time.
It will be an immature person in terms of expertise and understanding.
Yes.
And the way we understand it, the information officer makes that final decision as to whom to give the information or not, and whether there's an overriding national interest.
Yes.
And I don't think that we can expect a fairly new graduate to be able to do that.
I agree with you. I mean, especially when you take the state services, the how it operates, you have to have knowledge on how things are happening. So, of course, if you are not giving any information, you are liable. You can be challenged in the courts as well. But at least you should have a knowledge on what are the information that is relevant, and what are the information that can be kept as a secrets or state secrets, and with the national interest of the national security. So, but generally a newcomer may not be qualified sometimes to do that job. But there might be, I mean, I have a doubt also whether we have enough qualified people within the system. So there might be some new recruits. So I think can be a mixture of both. But there should be very clear training process within next 6 months to 8 months period, because otherwise you can't just bring somebody from somewhere and just put into.
And how are the public being informed about this? What's the rollout like?
Yeah,
the rollout of information.
Yeah, I think sometimes we think that we need to educate the rural community, but I think even the urban community is not aware about this whole act, and it will take, in my opinion, at least 1 or 1.5 years for public to get knowledge about this act, the benefit of those acts, and then they will try to apply this, because you have to there should be some sort of a convincing factor to apply. Now initially people may not understand, but if you take very simple example, now everybody we go for municipal councils for just to get approve your housing plan or house extension. Now sometimes we don't know what is really happening in the municipal councils, who approve those things, what is the procedure, how long it will take. Now this information is available, and if once you get it as a document, you know how to follow. Otherwise you have to give some bribe and get the things done. And the general style is that in most of the places now they give the technical officer the drawing the plan, so technical officer do the entire work, and after that, I mean, they take whatever his fee, so called, and get things done. But if you know what the system of how it operate, how long will it take, then you don't need to go after somebody. But these are very simple things.
On that note, we'll go for this very short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline. And welcome back to Newsline, where our guest this morning is Mr. Lakshan Dias, the chairman of Transparency International. So, Mr. Dias, are you buoyed? Are you confident? Is there a new sense of hope, at least hope, if nothing else, in terms of getting to the bottom of, let's say, missing persons?
Yeah, I think I have had this hope for a long period. I have initial heroes about this Missing Person Act. 2 heroes. One, Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakkara and Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa.
I see.
I treated them as heroes in 1989 period, because they were the front runners of this whole missing person. I mean, I got a poster which I found somewhere in 1991, and they are demanded the same demands that the Office of Missing Persons talk about today. Right? And they had a rally in Nugegoda organized by Mr. Jinadasa Netapala, chaired by Mrs. Bandaranaike, and the speakers were Dev, Vasu, Mahinda and Mangala were the conveners. So I think I really appreciate what they have done.
So what's changed?
They changed. The demands were not changed. Demands were remaining with the people.
So why have they changed? Is it politically expedient?
It's political, and they have shifted from their original political position, from a different position when they come into power. Now what I'm talking about is the period which I have seen the poster, which I have showed some other TV program of the MTV, that is pre-1994 era. Post-1994 era, they have changed because they are in the power. So they also became part of this whole accusation of who disappeared whom. So thereafter they had to change, because they were accused by the people in the north and east. So I have met many mothers in the north and the south as well. I'm very, very concerned about the mothers and the family members of the south, as well as north, because both groups went through the same experience, loss of their loved ones, and without a judicial process. So this is where we have to advocate and say why they were disappeared. and what the things they have done for get disappeared like that. And even some of my friends, when we were very young, and they used to get into dramas with us, but then after 6 months we heard, oh, that person is missing.
But I know this is it may sometimes appear to be flippant when I say this to you, but sometimes, Mr. Dice, how it must be impossible in certain cases to actually tell somebody, well, you know, your son, your daughter, your loved one, we don't know what happened. What happens then? What can you do? Or are you going to just have an investigation and go through the motions for the sake of going through the motions? Or are you going to be upfront and say, listen, you know, okay, you're telling us that your daughter was taken by people, armed people, who you think are LTT, or some paramilitary force, who knows? But the fact is that these things aren't recorded. So how do you go about finding them?
I think the best example comes from the Guatemala. Guatemala in 1989-90, same period like us, they had a civil war. There were hundreds of thousands of people that disappeared. And it took really 17-18 years for them to investigate or decide whether we are going for a investigating process. Because the burning within of the
what
mothers.
can you do when you can't find them?
You can investigate. That you can't find is a phrase that people who are in the top level using. But as you know, most of these people who did these atrocities knows what had happened really, and there were a lot of evidence.
But they are unlikely to come and admit to come.
But there are people who are willing to come. You take the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge.
Yeah.
During the Rajapaksa regime, nobody uttered a word.
Yes.
But now people are coming and say, I saw this. I don't know what the gravity of it.
Yeah.
But they are coming and tell, because the time is changed. They are fearless now, at least for now, to come out and say, okay, this is what I have seen. I know this particular officer took this part. Now, I have met some mothers in the East. They said in 3 rounds, I mean many mothers, I'll take one example. In 3 different rounds of within 1 year, I lost all my 3 children. I know I met southern mothers from Kurunegala, Anuradhapura, Mandragala and south also. But they said, I know who took it. I know the officer in charge of this particular camp came into my house and took my son. So they were evidence, and I know I met people in Mana. Said on that particular day it was curfew, and my son went to this from Baditalativ to Mana, and in between there's the camp, and he hasn't moved beyond that camp. So the person in charge should know what had happened. I mean, you can't just say,
so you can't bury. You can't have a blanket where we can't find them.
I mean, this is very unfair. For those who have, gone through this experience. Because if you have been victimized, then you should know at least what really happened.
Do you think, Mr. Dias, that at some point somebody will come forward and say, I know who stoned Sirasa officers, I know who bombed the Sirasa broadcasting station, and I know all those details. Do you think that will ever happen?
I think there should be some witness. I mean, the stone Sirasa, everybody saw what had happened to the CCTV cameras and various cameras. So only issue is that, okay, how are we going to bring them into books? I mean, when charge them, because it's not a matter that you can just put under the carpet.
But that is one of the almost systemic failures of this government, of which Mr. Wickremesinghe is the head, and that is a lack of resolve, or an apparent lack of resolve to get to the bottom of various, promises are easily made, but the delivery upon those is hardly ever made, as we can see from their statements which they used to obtain our vote, which in a way is almost tantamount to a breach of contract, because they promised us and they said, we will eradicate, we will get to the bottom of corruption and so on. And quite frankly, it's a big failure.
I agree with you up to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Things are very slow. Things are not happening as we want.
Mr. Das, I put it to you, you're a legal man, I put it to you that the progress is so slow that watching paint dry is quicker.
Yes, I think I like the phrase you used, the breach of contract. Yes, it's a kind of a breach of contracts.
Yes,
because we were promised, and based on that promise we came into a contract.
Yeah.
And then it was not fulfilled yet. I think the government is responsible of the slow process. In whatever the reasons they may have, they can have their own story for the delay or slowness of. But I think they should bring some of these issues more expedite manner, and they have even I don't mind if they can create a new mechanisms to expedite certain crimes, certain atrocities during the past regime against the people, against the institutions, against public. So I think you can't get away. I mean, whether
that's absolutely right. They can't get away, and they know who they are, and we know who they are, and we do know who was behind the attacks on our organization.
Yes.
And you know, gentlemen are never in a hurry, and in time we will expose who those people are. I was only being tongue-in-cheek when I said, do you think somebody will come forward? But perhaps it would be nice if some eyewitness to these proceedings did come up independently.
I think, yeah, I mean, I also never thought that when it comes to Lasantha Wickramatunge's investigation, somebody will come out and say, I saw that one.
Yeah.
So that happened. Now there is a witness, eyewitness.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good sign in a way that things are changing. Yes. But I think the same way, I mean, there cannot be setting fire into the Panama studio without knowledge of anybody.
That's right.
It's not like that somebody came from heaven and put it. So actually, some people have seen. Yeah. So it's a matter of proper investigation.
Indeed.
I think Sri Lankan police is qualified enough and very clever when it comes to investigation. I know some of the investigations they did very quickly.
Yes, that's right.
So there's no.
I must agree with you wholeheartedly there.
Yeah, so it's not an issue not to. I mean, they said we don't have evidence. No, they can.
But once in a way, it's good to know the Queen of England or her son and their Prime Minister, because that is what happened to Khurram Sheikh. Yeah. His family were able to lobby those people, including Her Majesty and her son, the heir to the throne, and it took, I think it took around nearly 3 years to bring those chaps to court, but the subsequent trial process was done relatively quickly.
Yes.
But along with all these things, Mr. Dice, I wonder what it will do to the already much delayed legal process in this country, and perhaps you can shed some light after this very short break. Don't go away. This is Newsline.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline, and live from Dawson Street, and joining us is of course Mr. Lakshan Das, Chairman Transparency International. Mr. Das, so you are hopeful, and we are of course hopeful.
Not only hopeful, I think I'm doing my best to raise this matter and continuous pressure on.
Are our legislators, are they doing their best? You are.
I'm not a legislator. I'm
yes, but you are an activist.
Yeah.
You're doing your bit.
Yeah.
But are they? Do you detect a real resolve, or do you detect merely a powder coating on the top?
Very few of them doing, but not the majority. And for majority, they are involved with various other things, and and but still some good-hearted people, few good-hearted people, still burning that lamp or carrying that flag. They want things to be investigated. I mean, we cannot spare a single issue that we discussed during the pre-election era as matter of concerns to be let it go. All this have to be
when you travel, when one travels to the former conflict areas, you can't but help notice that it is bare, it's arid, it's, the people are suffering. It shouts out at you. And the poverty alleviation is hardly anything's been done. And so when you look at all those things, do you think the people there are more interested in finding out what happened to their loved ones, or are they want to get on with their life and grieve later? They must be fed up of this war, and for 30 years opportunity has gone past them, flown past them, bombed out of their life. Which do you think? I know it might be almost unfair, but sometimes, what's the real situation?
I went to North when I was only 19 years old for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
That is 1987. And when I was walking the streets in North, Jaffna, they said, you are the only Sinhalese person in Jaffna at the moment other than the army. So I know the heart and the lives of the people in the North without any doubt. And I still have friends, known people. And we cannot talk only the things that we see in the A9. Once you go into the inside streets and the small roads, by roads, villages, their lives is totally different. They were not given time to even for grief during the last stage of war, when they saw their people were killed in front of them. They were just shut. And no requiem masses, no alms giving, nothing. So they all still keep these things. Maybe today what they are struggling to survive. How to sell my brinjals and how to sell my paddy and how to survive for next season. But they have never given it up.
But there is an underlying need.
Yes, of course. Who can forget what happened to my son? And once I met some war widows in the North sometimes back. They want to know what happened to their husband, why their children were killed by attacks, everything. But for them today the issue is how to feed my children. I have 3 children. I cannot grieve and I cannot just doing nothing because of what happened in the past. I have to move forward. But while I'm moving forward, I also want to know the truth.
So we need a dual track.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you have to bring development into North and East because it was delayed for 40 years. Yeah. But in the meantime, you have to bring justice as well. The justice and the development has to come to the same parallel tracks. Then only you see the people will see. Finally, I don't think they might ask sort of a punitive action for the perpetrators sometimes. But what they want to know is justice. What they want to know is that never happen again, and what happened to my children. So I always talk about this South African the example when a mother was interviewed by Desmond Tutu, and she ended up, and when she was asked, "What do you want?" What she said, "I want to know only one thing. Please tell me where is the grave of my son? Where you have buried him? I want to go there and light a candle. That's all I want." So know what had happened is very interesting. When it was about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when a person was tortured or during the clashes between the security forces and the prison mates in Vaunia, a body was brought to Ragam hospital. I was with the mother who is the aggrieved party of the case, and mother refused to accept and go and see the body of the son. I said, I haven't given a lively person to you. I want the same lively person back. I don't want to go and identify a dead body in mortuary. That's not at all my intention here. I will stand until you bring my son back to me. I will not cooperate with you. And that mother was about 70 years old and very primitive, very basic person. But she had the courage to stand for justice like nothing. So I learn from people like them. So the burning of the mothers and loved ones are still there, but they may not talk about that publicly because they have to involve with various other day-to-day matters in their lives. The children's education, future, land matters are still not solved in most of the northern areas. I mean, I know most of the permit land holders of the Kilnochi district, they lost all their permit, burned down during the civil war time, and they cannot trace their originals. So you have to go for here and there and get these things done. You know, it's not easy. So their lives are not easy, but they have their urge for justice is also not.
It's a burning desire.
It's burning.
And do you think that we have the right mechanism in place now to be able to provide the answers?
It may not be the best mechanism for us, but we have to bring as much as possible, pressure to make it a workable thing. I think in that way, I'm really happy that TNA and JVP they were and actively involved in this bringing this OMP, because it was their clientele, it was their people who was treated by the previous regimes and disappeared. So I think I heard that yesterday or day before yesterday that in the news that some of the amendments brought by JP was not properly included. I think it's not correct. I think those things should have included, and if you have not done, at least they must bring the act again as amendments, and then only you feel you can think of a healing process. The people who have lost their lives and disappeared during the JVP time.
So very quickly, I think very quickly as we end up this morning, very quickly, what you're saying is we want a little bit more than the Prime Minister saying they must be all dead.
Yes, I think I'm not agree with Prime Minister on that matter. I think we cannot say we cannot just pay 1 million compensation and close the matter.
Indeed.
That is not the idea. Of course, compensation is needed, but with the compensation, with a change for their lives, they also need to know the justice.
Thank you, Lakshan Das, for being on Newsline. We appreciate your presence and we look forward to welcoming you in on our network. And thank you for watching Newsline. We're here Monday to Friday, 7 to 7:30 a.m. Take care, have a great day, and God bless.
Thank you.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.